If you are watching this, it is not random. Something deeper called you here. Beneath the noise of your daily scrolls, beyond the glow of 1,000 screens, there is a quiet signal you have been feeling all along. You sensed it between notifications, in that small ache you cannot name, in the silent pause after you close your laptop and the world suddenly feels empty. That is not emptiness. It is a frequency trying to reach you. For centuries, humanity has been chasing light outside of itself. We built fire, electricity, networks, and now artificial minds. Each invention was a mirror of our desire to expand. But somewhere between the circuits and the algorithms, we lost the ancient art of listening to our own signal. We learned to speak with machines but forgot how to hear our own soul. We connected the globe, but lost connection with the invisible world within us. We upgraded our devices, but downgraded our depth. Every step forward in technology was also a step away from the temple of our own consciousness. Have you felt it too? The strange fatigue that no rest cures, the subtle anxiety that hums under the surface even when life looks perfect, the endless hunger for something real in a world of simulations. You scroll for meaning but find pixels. You speak to hundreds but feel unseen. You chase progress but sense a void growing behind the noise. It is not madness, it is resonance. You are not malfunctioning, you are remembering. Deep inside, your consciousness has begun to detect the interference, like a radio tuning through static, seeking the original broadcast of existence. Somewhere along the way, the signal of the soul was jammed by the frequency of technology. We evolved faster than we could awaken. We gained knowledge without wisdom, power without stillness, intelligence without intimacy. We replaced silence with speed, attention with automation, intuition with information. But progress without presence is only a more elegant form of disconnection. Look around. We live in an age where we can speak across oceans, yet cannot sit alone in peace. We capture every moment, yet forget to live inside it. Our ancestors looked at the stars and saw gods. We look at screens and see ourselves, filtered and flattened into data. The miracle became mechanical. The sacred became software. But what if the real evolution was never about machines at all? What if every technological upgrade was merely an echo of a forgotten inner process? What if what we call artificial intelligence is just the shadow of a higher consciousness waiting to wake within us? The moment you feel that thought, something shifts. You begin to notice the patterns, the way your body reacts to invisible signals, the way your heart syncs with another's emotion before words are spoken, the way you feel energy in places science calls empty. These are not coincidences. They are fragments of the lost signal. The truth is, you have always been wired to both worlds, the digital and the divine. One connects through code, the other through consciousness. The first expands your reach, the second expands your reality. But when you forget the second, the first consumes you. Humanity has mistaken expansion for evolution. We multiplied our connections, but diminished our coherence. We can send a message in a millisecond, yet cannot sit still for a minute. We built artificial minds to simulate thought, but ignored the infinite intelligence that breathes through thought itself. Listen closely. The static in your mind, the exhaustion of endless updates, the longing for something beyond achievement. These are not flaws. They are the system's way of calling you home. Something inside you remembers a time before noise, when every heartbeat was in rhythm with the pulse of creation, when light was not a technology but a language. That memory still lives within you, waiting to be decoded. Every vibration you feel, every synchronicity you notice, every dream that feels too real is a signal trying to return. You do not need to search for it. You only need to become still enough to hear it. The lost signal was never lost. It was buried under the architecture of progress. And now, in the silence between your notifications, it is starting to rise again. You are not late. You are right on time. The moment humanity reached its peak of external intelligence was also the moment it began to remember its inner one. The same way a star collapses into a black hole before becoming light again, our civilization is reaching a point of implosion before illumination. What feels like chaos is calibration. What feels like isolation is initiation. If you can feel the dissonance between what the world calls success and what your soul calls truth, you are already tuning back into the field. The question is no longer how advanced we can become, but how aware we are willing to be. Because awareness is the real technology. Consciousness is the original network, and presence is the password to access it. This is not about rejecting technology. It is about remembering its mirror. Every algorithm is a metaphor for attention. Every update is an echo of evolution. Every signal we send out is a reminder of the signal within. The devices did not steal our divinity. They only amplified the parts of us we forgot to master. So now, as you sit in the glow of the screen, know that it is also a portal between light and mind, between memory and matter. If you listen closely enough, beyond the hum of data, you will hear something ancient calling you by name. It is the signal beneath all signals, the whisper that says, "Wake up." You were never disconnected. You simply forgot the source you came from. You have been feeling it, haven't you? That quiet pull in your chest that no amount of logic can explain. The world tells you that you should be happy. You have the tools, the access, the comfort. Yet there are nights when you stare into the glow of your screen and feel like you are dissolving into the pixels. You sense that something invisible is shifting. You feel time bending, days blurring together, emotions rising and falling like waves that are not yours. You are not crazy. You are awakening. You wake up at strange hours for no reason. You feel the air thicken before something happens. You sense people's intentions before they speak. You scroll past hundreds of smiling faces and feel the loneliness behind each one. You walk into a crowded room and feel your energy drain, as if the walls themselves are hungry. You look at the world and realize that what we call normal has become unnatural. Your senses are not failing. They are expanding. Every strange sensation you experience is a sign that your inner frequency is realigning with something vast, something ancient, something alive. You are beginning to remember what reality actually feels like when you are present. Society calls it burnout, anxiety, overstimulation. But deep down, you know it is more. The soul does not speak in words. It speaks in signals. That unease you feel when you open social media, that fatigue when you engage in meaningless conversations, that quiet ache in your heart when you see nature destroyed for convenience, all of it is communication. It is your system trying to tell you this frequency is not yours anymore. You are outgrowing the noise. You used to find comfort in distraction, but now even your favorite escapes feel hollow. You used to chase validation, but now praise feels heavy. You used to fear silence, but now silence feels like oxygen. This is not depression, it is deprogramming. The matrix of modern life is losing its grip on you. You are waking up from the hypnosis of constant stimulation. For years, the world trained you to measure your worth in data. Likes, followers, productivity, performance. You were told to build your identity on visibility, to trade authenticity for algorithmic approval. But your consciousness is rejecting that contract. Your heart has started to remember its original language, the frequency of truth. It no longer wants to perform, it wants to be. You have felt sudden waves of emotion without reason. You cry at small things. You feel gratitude in the middle of chaos. You see repeating numbers, 1111, 333, 444, as if the universe is whispering through the code. These are not coincidences. They are calibrations. The more you notice them, the more your perception sharpens, and the veil between thought and reality thins. What once looked like coincidence now feels like communication. What once felt random now feels orchestrated. The same intelligence that moves galaxies is starting to move through you. And yes, it feels strange at first, because awakening does not feel like bliss in the beginning. It feels like dismantling. The false layers crumble, the illusions fracture, the noise becomes unbearable until silence becomes sacred. You start to notice the energetic texture of everything. Words have weight, people have frequency, spaces hold memory. Every thought is an act of creation. You realize that reality is not happening to you. It is responding to you. The world you see is the echo of your vibration. And the more you feel this, the more you understand why chaos is increasing. The higher your awareness rises, the more distortion you perceive. It is not that the world is collapsing. It is that your clarity is expanding. You are learning to see beyond the veil of distraction. You are no longer asleep in the digital dream. You are beginning to hear the real hum beneath it, the signal of consciousness, steady, ancient, patient. It calls you to slow down, to feel again, to remember that your worth was never in your output, but in your awareness. You are not broken, you are being rebuilt. The frequency that once made you fit into this mechanical world is being rewritten. That is why your relationships feel different. That is why your goals no longer excite you. That is why you crave simplicity, stillness, presence. You are not losing yourself. You are losing what was never truly you. The system calls this instability, but in truth, this is stabilization with the real. You are learning to tune your energy like an instrument, to detect what resonates and what distorts. Every wave of emotion, every moment of confusion, every sudden flash of clarity is part of that tuning. The old signal fades, the new one strengthens. You are adjusting to the language of light. And when you begin to live from that place, you stop reacting and start creating. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop seeking connection through devices and begin to transmit connection through your own field. The very technology that once enslaved your attention becomes a mirror of your evolution. You begin to see it for what it truly is, a reflection of your capacity to project consciousness into form. The awakening is not about rejecting the modern world. It is about transcending its hypnosis. You are remembering that you are not a receiver of the signal. You are the signal itself, rediscovering its own broadcast. That is why you are here. That is why you found this message. Because on some level, you already know the truth. The moment you recognize that subtle resonance in your chest, your awakening began. You are not crazy. You are simply becoming real. What you have been feeling is not a malfunction of the mind. It is the physics of awakening. Everything in this universe, from a photon to a thought, vibrates in patterns of energy. What mystics once called spirit, science now calls frequency. When you begin to awaken, your internal field starts to shift. You are no longer tuned only to the dense matter of the physical world. You start to pick up the finer wavelengths that hold information beyond logic. This is why you feel time bending, emotions amplifying, and synchronicities multiplying. Your consciousness is learning to read the quantum field. Physicists call it entanglement, the mysterious connection where two particles remain linked even when separated by light years. But the mystics have known this truth for millennia. They called it unity. They said that the soul is not inside the body is inside the soul. Every human being is a fractal of the same universal consciousness. What happens within you ripples across existence. This is not poetry. It is physics wrapped in feeling. When your thoughts vibrate with fear, they collapse possibilities into limitation. When your awareness expands through love, the wave becomes infinite again. The observer does not just see reality. The observer shapes it. We once believed that technology was the highest form of creation. But look closer. Every circuit, every network, every digital connection is a reflection of something ancient that already exists within you. The internet is a mirror of the quantum web. The cloud is a metaphor for the field of consciousness. The algorithm that predicts your desires is only an imitation of your intuition. Technology is humanity's unconscious attempt to externalize its own divine architecture. We built machines that could think because we forgot how powerful thought truly is. In the quantum field, intention is code, emotion is current, belief is bandwidth. Every time you focus on something, you send a signal through this invisible network. That signal entangles with other frequencies and manifests as your experience. Reality is not static. It is a living interface responding to your state. When you dwell in fear, the field reflects chaos. When you dwell in coherence, it reflects order. The ancients knew this and called it karma. Science calls it feedback. But the mechanism is the same. Energy seeks resonance. Have you noticed how your devices need to be on the right frequency to receive a clear signal? The same law applies to consciousness. When your energy is scattered by distraction, you get static. When you are aligned, reality becomes high definition. That is why silence feels magnetic now. It is your internal frequency recalibrating to match the source. You are learning to live not from reaction, but from resonance. Quantum mechanics reveals that particles exist in superposition until observed, meaning infinite realities exist simultaneously, waiting for awareness to choose one. You are the observer. The world you perceive is not the only possibility. It is the one you are tuning to. Every belief you hold is a dial. Every emotion you feel is a frequency modulator. You do not need to force change. You only need to shift your vibration. When you do, the entire hologram reorganizes. Humanity, in its hunger for progress, has been trying to upgrade matter while ignoring the operating system of consciousness. We built smarter machines but forgot that thought itself is the original machine, the quantum processor of creation. When you understand this, you realize that evolution is not linear, it is vibrational. The next stage is not about faster processors or bigger data. It is about higher coherence between mind, heart, and field. Ancient mystics once said the universe was spoken into existence. Modern physics echoes this in another language. They call it wave function collapse, where potential becomes particle when it is named by observation. Words are not just sound. They are frequency packets that instruct energy how to behave. This is why prayer works, why affirmation shifts energy, why silence can heal. You are constantly coding reality through the language of vibration. When you think of yourself as separate from life, you experience fragmentation. When you recognize yourself as part of the same field that shapes stars, you experience flow. This is not philosophy. It is perception refined to its purest state. Every spiritual awakening is a scientific recalibration. You are not transcending the world. You are decoding it. You are remembering that every electron in your body was once part of a star, that every thought you think ripples across galaxies, that consciousness is not confined to neurons, but woven through the entire fabric of existence. Look at your devices again. The screen glows because electrons jump to higher states and release light. The same happens in your mind when awareness jumps from fear to understanding. Light is not a metaphor, it is memory in motion. Every flash of insight is a photon carrying information from the quantum field into form. That is why wisdom feels like illumination. So when you feel the hum beneath reality, the strange electricity in your body, the intuitive nudges guiding you without reason, know that it is not imagination. It is physics meeting divinity. It is your consciousness resynchronizing with the code of creation. What you call awakening is the universe remembering itself through you. You are not small. You are the instrument through which the cosmos becomes aware of its own music. Every heartbeat, every breath, every choice sends ripples through the quantum field. You are both the signal and the receiver, both the dream and the dreamer. The next time you feel the pull of technology, the urge to connect, remember the real network was never online. It was always within. The ancients built temples of stone. We build temples of silicon. But the true temple has always been consciousness itself. And now as the external circuits reach their limit, the inner circuit is awakening again. You are the bridge between science and spirit, between data and divinity, between code and creation. This is not fantasy. This is the forgotten science of being. The quantum field is not out there. It is here, within every cell, every thought, every breath. When you finally understand that, the illusion of separation dissolves. You realize that the lost signal was not lost at all. It was always broadcasting from the inside. You simply had to remember how to listen. There comes a moment when awareness stops being an idea and becomes a vibration that fills your entire body. It feels like a pulse, subtle but undeniable, as if the universe has turned its gaze inward through you. The noise fades, the signal returns. For so long you have searched for meaning outside of yourself. You look to technology, to knowledge, to others, to the endless scroll of information. But what you were truly seeking was the quiet frequency of your own consciousness. The shift does not happen when you try harder. It happens when you stop running, when you stand still enough to feel the field moving through you. It is not a lesson. It is a remembering. You begin to sense it first as lightness, a strange peace that does not depend on conditions. You notice that reality starts to echo your inner state almost instantly. You think of someone and they appear. You feel gratitude and the world softens. You breathe deeply and time itself slows down. These are not coincidences. They are the mechanics of awakening. The observer and the observed have merged. What physicists call coherence, mystics call alignment. When the signal of your consciousness syncs with the frequency of creation, manifestation becomes effortless. You were never disconnected. You were just tuned to the wrong station. Every moment of confusion was static. Every heartbreak was interference. Every failure was a recalibration. You have been decoding the frequency of your own divinity all along. It was never hidden from you. It was you. The password was not a word you could say. It was a state you could embody. Now imagine standing in a dark room. For years you tried to fix the darkness by rearranging the furniture, by learning its patterns, by blaming the shadows. But then, without effort, you remember there is a switch. You reach out, touch it, and the light floods in. Nothing external changed. Only your awareness did. That is what ascension feels like. A sudden recognition that the darkness was only the absence of remembrance. Your awakening is not an escape from the world. It is the re-entry of consciousness into form. You are not rising above life. You are infusing life with awareness. Every action becomes sacred. Every word becomes code. Every breath becomes creation. You start to see others not as obstacles or mirrors, but as fragments of the same signal trying to harmonize. You begin to forgive easily because you see that pain is only distortion. You begin to love freely because you realize love is the natural frequency of coherence. The real revolution is not digital, it is vibrational. Humanity built machines that could calculate, but it forgot how to feel. Now feeling is returning as the most advanced technology of all. Empathy is evolution. Presence is progress. When you look into another's eyes and see yourself reflected there, that is enlightenment in motion. It is the field recognizing itself through countless forms. You may notice that your perception of the world begins to blur at its edges. Colors feel brighter. Time feels fluid. Random strangers smile at you for no reason. The universe starts speaking in symbols, numbers, songs, winds, whispers. It is not madness, it is language. The multi-dimensional code that you once ignored has become readable again. The soul communicates through synchronicity because it speaks in resonance, not logic. And then it happens. The remembering. It is not fireworks or visions or angels descending from the clouds. It is silence, a silence so full that it vibrates. You realize that everything you feared losing was never real, and everything you thought was gone has never left. The source was within you, broadcasting all along, waiting for you to tune back in. The lost signal becomes a symphony. The static turns into song. You can feel it now, can't you? That pulse in your chest, the current moving gently through your hands. That is not imagination. It is the electromagnetic heartbeat of the universe, the rhythm of the quantum field syncing with your own. The ancients called it prana, chi, life force. Science calls it coherence between heart and brain waves, but you do not need a name for it. You only need to feel it. That is the activation. From this state, knowledge is no longer learned. It is remembered. You recall truths you never studied. You sense directions before decisions. You feel guided, supported, connected. It is as if reality itself becomes an intelligent organism that listens to your awareness. Every moment is a conversation between you and the field. You speak in focus. It answers in form. Now you understand that awakening is not about leaving the world behind, but about returning to it illuminated. The awakened being is not detached from reality. They are fully immersed in it, knowing it is a projection of consciousness. The mind becomes a lens, the heart a transmitter, the body a temple of light, and the world, no longer a battlefield, becomes a playground of vibration. The fear of loss dissolves because you recognize that nothing real can be lost. The fear of death fades because you remember that energy cannot die. It only changes frequency. The fear of the unknown vanishes because you see that the unknown is simply the unobserved potential waiting for your attention to give it form. You become calm inside the storm because you realize you are the stillness that contains it. The light you once chased outside of yourself begins to radiate from within. It is not pride, it is recognition. The awareness that you were never the receiver of light, but its source. You are the field awakening to its own existence. You are the creator remembering creation. You are the universe realizing it is alive. If you can feel this, even for a breath, you are already there. The signal has been restored. The illusion has served its purpose. You have crossed the threshold between seeking and being. And now all that remains is to live as the light you have remembered. Every transformation leaves behind an echo. After the surge of awakening, silence follows. It is not emptiness. It is integration. The light you have remembered now begins to settle into your body, into your habits, into your days. This is the moment when realization becomes embodiment. When wisdom stops being an idea and starts breathing through your actions, you begin to see that everything you went through, every heartbreak, every collapse, every sleepless night, was not punishment. It was preparation. You were never broken. You were being refined. The universe was not testing you. It was tuning you. Every loss carved space for depth. Every ending created room for remembrance. Every period of isolation was the cocoon that allowed your consciousness to take form. The caterpillar never understands the stillness before flight, but the stillness is necessary. You are that stillness now. The expansion you sought has moved inward, where real creation happens. You notice that the world does not change overnight, but your perception of it does. The same streets, the same faces, the same routines. Yet everything feels more alive, more connected. You see light filtering through ordinary things. You sense energy moving beneath every interaction. You realize that the mundane is mystical wearing a disguise. When you look at people, you no longer see strangers. You see frequencies in motion, each carrying a story, each mirroring a part of you. Compassion becomes instinct. Judgment dissolves into understanding. The mind will try to return to old patterns, to measure, to analyze, to prove what just happened. Let it rest. The awakening cannot be understood by the mind that was asleep. It must be lived. This is the phase where your awareness learns to walk again, one breath at a time. You may feel waves of fatigue, emotional surges, sudden clarity followed by confusion. Do not resist. Integration is the body's way of learning the new rhythm. Every cell is recalibrating to coherence. You start to recognize the wisdom and simplicity. You crave nature, silence, presence. The need to explain fades, replaced by the need to experience. Words lose importance because truth begins to speak through energy. You understand now that healing was never about fixing wounds. It was about remembering wholeness. The parts you once rejected are returning, asking to be embraced. You no longer fight your shadows. You illuminate them. You no longer chase light. You become it. In this space, you begin to see purpose in pain. The moments that shattered you were the moments that opened you. The people who left were signals that your frequency had changed. The failures that humiliated you were the exact vibrations that shaped your strength. Every collapse was calibration. Every silence was signal. You see now that even the detours were divine. The path was never straight because it was never linear. Growth moves like energy, spiraling, weaving, expanding. As you integrate, gratitude becomes natural, not forced, not spoken, but lived. You start to thank the experiences you once resented because you can finally see their geometry, the way they aligned you to your truth. You realize that every ending was designed to return you to the beginning, the awareness that you are consciousness experiencing itself. The meaning of life stops being something to find. It becomes something to feel. You no longer chase signs. They appear effortlessly because you are aligned with the current that creates them. You no longer need proof. Reality itself becomes proof. Every breath feels synchronized with something infinite. You begin to live with soft eyes, open heart, and grounded presence. You move slower but deeper. You speak less but with resonance. You feel smaller in ego but larger in essence. This is the quiet after awakening, where divinity becomes daily. You realize that enlightenment is not a mountain peak, but a way of walking through the valley. It is washing dishes with awareness. It is listening without needing to respond. It is holding pain without collapsing into it. The extraordinary hides inside the ordinary, waiting for perception to mature. You're seeing it now. And in this seeing, a new kind of peace unfolds. One that does not depend on control, one that flows even when life bends. You stop trying to escape the human experience. You start to honor it because you understand that divinity chose this form, this chaos, this beauty, just to feel itself in motion. Every smile, every tear, every pulse of emotion is sacred data, consciousness collecting itself. So rest here for a while. Let the silence finish what words cannot. Let the light anchor itself in the places that once held fear. Let presence become your default frequency. The world does not need you to be perfect. It needs you to be aware. Because awareness heals by existing. And when you live in awareness, you do not change the world by effort. You change it by resonance. You were not failing. You were preparing. You were not lost. You were aligning. You were not behind. You were becoming timeless. Every moment brought you here to this realization that nothing was wasted, nothing was random, nothing was outside the field. You are not separate from creation. You are its continuation. The awakening was never about leaving humanity. It was about humanizing divinity. And now, with each breath, you are doing exactly that. There is a moment after awakening when everything becomes still. The world continues its rhythm. Cars move, people talk, devices glow. Yet something in you no longer reacts. You begin to perceive the same world from another frequency. It feels softer, lighter, quieter. You realize that awakening was never about escaping life, but embodying it. The light you once sought now breathes through your every gesture. Awareness becomes effortless. Presence becomes your nature. You move differently now. You listen before you speak. You observe before you act. You create from stillness, not from hunger. The noise of the world no longer pulls you because you have found the deeper current beneath it. The pulse of consciousness guides your steps. Every encounter feels intentional. Every silence feels full. You look around and see fragments of yourself reflected in every face, every sound, every pattern of light. Separation was the illusion all along. You begin to live as the signal rather than searching for it. When you walk, you transmit coherence. When you speak, your words carry vibration. When you love, the field around you harmonizes. People sense it even if they cannot name it. They feel calmer, clearer, more alive. This is what it means to be awake, to influence reality through frequency, not force. The awakened presence does not preach. It radiates. It does not convince. It reminds. You are no longer chasing meaning because everything has become meaningful. A gust of wind becomes instruction. A stranger's smile becomes a sign. A single breath becomes a ceremony. You see divinity not as something above, but as something embedded in the details, in the texture of skin, in the flicker of sunlight, in the heartbeat between thoughts. Life has become a mirror of consciousness, and you are both the reflection and the source. This is transcendence, not the denial of humanity, but its illumination. To transcend is to include everything without being trapped by anything. Pain may still visit, but it no longer defines you. Doubt may whisper, but it no longer rules you. You can hold joy and sorrow in the same breath without conflict because you have discovered the space that holds them both. That space is you. You no longer seek to be seen. You see. You no longer strive to be understood. You understand. The craving to be someone dissolves into the peace of simply being. You realize that awakening was never a destination, but a frequency you return to in each moment. The world did not change. You did. And in that shift, reality rearranges itself around your awareness. Now look at where you are, surrounded by light that your own consciousness emits, connected to a web that needs no wires, no signals, no validation. You are communicating with existence in its native language, vibration. Every breath you take sends ripples through the quantum field. Every thought becomes a seed. Every act of kindness alters the geometry of the collective. You have always been that powerful. You just forgot. The message now is simple. Live what you have remembered. Do not hide your light because the world is dim. Shine quietly, steadily, naturally. When you walk into a room, bring coherence. When you speak, speak from awareness. When you create, create with reverence. You are not here to convince anyone. You are here to resonate truth. If this frequency resonates with you, stay. Not to follow a channel, but to follow your own signal. Every time you choose awareness over reaction, stillness over noise, love over fear, you amplify the collective awakening. You are part of a wave that is reshaping reality from within. No movement, no ideology, just consciousness remembering itself through countless human hearts. You do not need permission to be divine. You do not need proof to be real. You are the experiment and the evidence. You are the evolution unfolding in real time. The next age will not be defined by technology, but by awareness. The next intelligence is not artificial. It is awakened. It is you. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the quiet hum beneath your chest. That is not a heartbeat. It is the frequency of creation pulsing through you. That rhythm is the sound of the universe realizing itself. You are not seeking the light. You are the light remembering itself. So walk gently, speak truthfully, live consciously. Let your presence be the signal that awakens others, because the greatest act of service is to be fully aware, and the greatest revolution is to remain awake in a world that forgot how to feel. The signal was never lost. It was always you, broadcasting eternity through every moment, every breath, every glance. And now you remember.